6. Done creating the tab, yeah.
Okay. Topic 6.
Yes.
All right. So the first thing to understand is the policy.
Okay.
And the policy is all about the it's the client groupings, right? So you have client groupings, right? So this is a group of client assignments. So does that make sense? Do you understand or not?
I understand.
Okay, so what is it?
A client is grouping the, I think the client work. According to my understanding, you put it on a group.
But it's like related. It's like related client work, right? It's like would be all related client work for a single organization or project or objective, right? So it's like a group of client work that would go together.
Okay. All related client work.
In other words, it'd also be like a single client budget or a single potential income contract for the worker. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But when you say a single organization, for example, like which one? Just an example. A related or a single.
Well, no, I'm going to give you all of the examples. So the
Okay.
question is, what are the different clients? So we need to start understanding the different clients. So, so here's some examples of clients, right?
Yeah.
So you have different client types. You have trust profit, social profit, for-profit, nonprofit, community profit, right? So you have, we'll get rid of the community profit right now, but mainly we have nonprofit and trust profit and for-profit, right?
Okay.
So basically the example would be one of the things that we're changing is like we have the nonprofit. So I'm using the term the charity orb. So an orb is like an organization or it's like a coalition of multiple organizations working. It's like an association of multiple organizations working together specifically for the purpose of administrative oversight. Okay, so that's like the charity orb would be the nonprofit, and then you would have the category of the work. So this would be the client, and this would be the client type, and then the category would be like taxes, right?
Yeah.
So we also have for-profit taxes, right? And we also have trust profit taxes. So when we're doing the taxes, in the old model, the taxes were all the same client under POS. So, but now we're separating the taxes and there would be 3 separate tax clients. There would be the partnership orb. No, this would be the trust. There'd be the trust and individual orb for taxes. There would be the partner for-profit orb taxes, and then there'd be the charity orb nonprofit taxes. So each of these 3 category groupings of work would come from separate budgets and be paid separately to the workers. Right? So because it would be separate income. Right? So if you're working on nonprofit taxes, you're getting paid by the nonprofit. If you're working on for-profit taxes, you're getting paid by the for-profit. If you're working on trust profit taxes, you're getting paid by the trust.
Clear.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Even though it's the same category of work, it's totally separate clients.
Same category, total different clients.
So another example would be like for the nonprofit, you have the they might still be from the charity org, but then the category could be the sponsorship program, right? So we have our sponsorship program under the charity org, right? And then we're also talking about creating a grants category under the charity org. So you could have fundraising for the social profit, right?
Yeah.
And then you could even have fundraising for the nonprofit. Maybe this is activity fundraising coming from the for-profit. Either way, there's just not a lot of money in either the social profit or the for-profit, right? So this is all for-profit. So there's sort of money there, right? So that this is like a very small amount of money. But the grants and the sponsorship might be easier to actually have money for, okay?
Yes.
So the bottom line is that what we're trying to do is work out a single client. And then once we get a client and we get all the value for that client, all the categories of work for that client, then we can start looking at all the assignments for the actual deliverables. So the next thing would be like the deliverable assignment, right? So what is the actual work under that particular category? And then we would look, okay, how much value does that have? Right?
Yeah.
So so the first thing to do is that we need to choose a client, and we need to have a specific client that we can focus on. Ideally, that would have, a budget that we can start putting together. Okay.
Okay. So for a new client, where is the new client fall under these categories? Is it
The new client would be right here. You have UMC and UET.
or for profit?
Yeah, for profit.
So we can see now for profit, we can choose the client work we like to focus on. Now we can say we are going to UMC and UET.
Yeah, but currently we're not contracted for this.
Oh.
So let's look at some priority work. So for example, if we look at the actual deliverable, the assignment, which is the most important thing, right?
Yes.
To create the new client contract. So we want to create the new client contract. So who would be the category for this would be client relations and scope updating.
Okay.
And the client for this would be UMBUS, right? Association. And SVG, UMBUS SVG Association, right?
Yeah.
And so this currently is under the social profit, which means it's going to be a major problem to figure out how to get this paid. Right? Another example is that we would put under social profit would be like the vortex slash the network rate, I guess. And this would be the planetary sessions. Planetary sessions. So this is also would be a social profit, which is kind of like a mix or not for profit. Like this money is difficult to get for the planetary sessions because we spent all the money already, right?
Yeah.
So so one option that we could do for some of the stuff, which is using my tokens, like if we can figure out how to do that, that is certainly an option. To get some money, that's under the trust profit. So we could put some of the stuff under the trust profit and me as the client. Some of this might be like executive support, right?
Yeah.
So executive support on planetary sessions or executive support for the new contract. So let's just take Umbus SVG as an example. So if we go ahead and get the client work, you hate how you don't actually say what you're linking. So here, oops.
You
So
want client organizing, work
here,
organizing?
line 50, I have client work. Oops. Client work. Potential income for 157 SFC. All right. So if we go back to what we were looking at before, we have the Vortex client work, the taxes, the SVG, and MCUS. So we know for the taxes, everything that's the nonprofit taxes are super simple, right? So CCC, WCDC, Community Life Network, these ones are super simple because they can just go into the new client. So this is going to be the nonprofit, charity org, right? So that's going to be really easy to do. So we want to do that. So then, but as far as the other taxes, and specifically the vortex and the UMCUS, these three are a little bit confusing as far as like where exactly the money's going to come from and how it's going to be organized. So if we take a look at just UMCUS for a little bit, SVG UMCUS, right? So we have SVG UMCUS, and we're thinking about, okay, how is this all going to work? So let's look at, I think the best way to do that is just look at the ideal payments. And then we look at executive payments, and then total. Right. So this is where I would say that we would start. So invoicing client and account. So ideal payment, we would pay like $50 a month. Executive payment is normal work. Right. So we could say type of work and normal work. So there's no executive. So the total would be $50. Right. Would be the ideal payment for that. Could be a little bit more than $50. Maybe it's $75. I don't know. But it doesn't need to be a lot because it's just once a month. Scope updating and agreements review. This definitely includes executive work. So, and this is a lot of work and very important. So we could say, I like to do per agreement. So if we did so this is like number of times that it needs to be done.
Yeah.
So if we're doing invoicing of our clients throughout the organization, I mean, this should only have to happen once. But we do need to coordinate a little bit. So let's just say $100, okay?
Yes.
So we're doing the scope and updating agreements review, and we want to do this a lot of times for each client. Maybe it's like $25 for each client, $25 or $40 to the executive, and then we might need to do it 10 times. So then this would be the grand total, right? This would be the subtotal per time. Okay, so you can see how it gets a lot more expensive once you start needing to do it a lot of times. So client outreach and sales. But maybe we don't need to start with 10, maybe we could do 5, you know, to get started. And these are more or less one time. Client outreach and sales. So client outreach and sales, so this is VA work. Client outreach and sales should be normal work, but you might need some VA setup. Normal work with VA.
VA setup.
So let's start with $100.
Calculation can be, and isn't normal.
Client relations is definitely VA work. So this would be more of like a support level, and then maybe VA work on this. And we might want to do multiple clients per month. Say 2 clients per month. Fortnight check-ins. This is normal work. No one does it. It shouldn't be very expensive. Once every 2 weeks, so twice a month. $25, $0. Twice a month. $50. Say $33. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to all client criteria, also normal work. Value equity structures. This seems more like VA. Client fundraising pools admin. This is all normal work. Client coordination.
Coordination is normal work.
SPG planning coordination.
Planning is normal.
Coordination normal. All right, so let's just go for, so this one maybe it's like $25, $50. But then the rest of these we could start with just like $50 a month. All right, and then this is equity structure. So the biggest problem here right now is that we don't have clarity on the one-time versus the monthly. So that's what we're missing right now. So let's just note that. So missing one time versus monthly, etc. So we don't have the frequency. So frequency is missing. So that needs to be added in. But the point here is that this would be like an example of the ideal funds. But we know we don't have any money, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be like $1,000. So then we can take the total and we can turn it into a percentage. So this would be the total. This would be this divided. Oops. Shoot.
Oh, so we need to add somewhere this is one time work, monthly work frequency on
Yeah.
this work.
Yeah. So these are the percentages of the value. So I think the percentages are a little off because of the one time versus the monthly.
Yeah.
So we still need to fix that a little bit. But either way, let's say we have, uh, let's say we can come up with $300, right? And
Yes.
we can't come up with the full $900. We need to get all the work done still. So the idea is this could be a way to set the amount of value for each amount, and then the rest of it would be tokens. So then this would be the upfront, and then the tokens would be the total minus the amount for upfront, right? So basically, this would be a potential model for how to get started. So let's say, oh, we don't have $300 because we also need to do the taxes and the vortex. Okay, we only have $200. Well, boom, we just go like that, and now we have a solution for how much we can spend for the month, right?
Yes.
So obviously these are way less than we want, but we could condense, right? So we could potentially condense and start prioritizing. So prioritize and condense. So maybe we could say, okay, for this month we don't need fortnight check-ins, right? If we just do the invoicing is enough. We don't need the fortnight check-ins. So we can remove fortnight check-ins and then have more money for everything else. So then it increases. So we could start condensing and prioritize and reducing the work. And then if we just have the most essential priorities that we need to do, and then we divide the very little amount of money that we have for the priorities that we need to get done, then we can try to increase the amount of pay for each priority.
So in this case, each priority need to get done for that money. Let's say, for example, invoicing an account receivable. So for that money to be paid, the work should be done for $100 to be paid, right?
Yeah, like these are what we need to still list the deliverables. So as I went over before, we want to list the deliverable, and we want to have the amount and what's going to the value and all that. So this is just giving an example of the grouping. So to figure out the total value, we would need to list all the deliverables for that particular group of work that's coming from a specific budget. So the vortex, the taxes, and the SFC UMCUS is all coming from the same money source, which potentially could be my personal funds, right? For my tokens and things like that. And then we also have the co-op 2.0, which would be coming from the same budget as well. So the point is that we just have such a small amount of money for this, but there's going to be a list of essential work that needs to get done. So we're going to take the list of essential work that needs to get done and then multiply it by the amount of money that we have, and then that will be how much money is available for each priority. And then we want to remove everything that's not a priority so that we can stay focused on the essential work that needs to get done.
So in this case, all these are one group, or taxes are on its own group, then vortex on its own group, right?
Yeah, but these are all three of them are related because the money is coming from basically the same place. But we will be splitting it up some between the vortex, the taxes, and the UMGUS. But I think we need to prioritize and make sure we know where and how much we want to go to each priority level. So, anyways, it's definitely interesting for sure in terms of trying to figure this all out. But the key is that we do need to get all the work done, but we have much less money to do with it. So ideally, UMCUS and SDG would have $1,000 to be used, But if we only have $200, then there's just less money available for each client priority.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So this is what we need to figure out.
Wow.
And then we need to create, so the first thing to do is to choose the priority client, right? So our goal is to prioritize. There's two things we need to do. We need to prioritize the client work that we need to do. So the actual assignments. So for example, one of the number one top priorities. So the first thing we do is prioritize the actual deliverables to be assigned, right? So we need actual deliverables because the actual deliverables is what we're going to be paying for. And then the next thing we need to do is build a, choose the client, and budget the funds will come from. And then the third part is to create a budget or new updated potential income amount, right? Budget, whatever. Okay, so these are the three steps. It's not that difficult. So basically, the first thing is understanding what it is are the most important things we need to do. So I would say the number one most important thing to do is the new client contract, right?
Yes.
Because this contract is potentially worth $20,000. That's like a lot of money. So, but this is not the only top priority thing that we need to do. Another example of a very important thing is the grants, right? So grants is something that we've also prioritized that we do. And then there's other priorities that we have too, right? We also know we need to be doing internal operations. So we need to figure that out as well in terms of how to get that organized. So anyways, we have lots of priorities.
Another priority is also following on new recruit client termination of contract for internal ops.
Yeah. So we have lots of internal ops things, and that's going to be even more complicated because we have even less money for internal ops, right? So in terms of the client work, let's just take these two as our top priorities specifically for the March. So the deadline is the March 29th.
Yes.
And we know that these are both separate clients. So we know this first one is under UMBUS and SVG, or UMCUS and SVG, right?
Yeah. And
The grant is going to be part of the community or charity org, right? So it is a client work under the new charity org because it's going to be separate for the grants. So then in order to find out how much money we have for these assignments, these deliverable assignments, we need to calculate the total value for all work within that client budget. So if we just take these two, like I just did for UMCUS, this is a pretty good basic breakdown of everything that needs to happen for UMCUS to make sure all the work is done correctly. And then we could go through the grants as well. Right? So the new client contract, we could determine that the new client contract probably could be worth $40, $50. So I'd be pretty comfortable saying, okay, we can probably do $50 for the new client contract as like an overall amount. So maybe that would be broken down to team base payroll. Maybe it would be, $30, and then the individual might be $20. And this would be like individual bonus. Right? So if we have $50 for this contract to be completed, $30 goes into the base payroll, $20 individual bonus, and then the total is $50. And then if we wanted to, maybe we could add an additional tokens amount of 150. Oh no, this is times 3. It would be 65 minus $65. So it would be 15. So we're saying like $15 for tokens. Tokens $15. I don't know if that seems like correct. I'm a little confused on this. It says the total is $65 per contract. So I think
this is the
there's
amount.
another thing that needs to get done here as well, which is that we also need to do the BJC trust token investment setup. So this is also March 20th deadline, but this is not really SVG. This is more like it could be under SVG in client. Yeah, it's client relations, I would say. But it's sort of a separate thing because it's not really the new client contract, it's the actual investment. So maybe this goes under client relations. And what do we have for that? So client relations, we have additional $75, which equals $30. And I feel like we need to take these two and divide them. So number of times for tokens, right? Number of times for money. So this would be the total for sure divided by.
Everything is not working.
What's wrong?
We missed the break because we can't hear the rhythm.
Oh, the rhythm's still not working? Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
All right, anyways, I need to get going, but so let's just kind of wrap it up here, but I think this is better. So it's actually $13 per contract. So the total would be $15 per contract, or $15 per contract, and $50 for the tokens. The tokens would be $50, and so this would be $10 and then $5 per contract. And then for the client relations, we have $15 and $60. So the client really, but this one can be a little bit more because it's important. But anyway, so let's say $20, $25, 10, 15, and 10. And the token bonus would be like, what is it? $80, $60?
Maybe.
60. Okay. So anyways, that's just like a good example. Or we could say 75 to make it a clean 100. So then you could have the total value would be equal to all of it together, which should equal 100. So do you more or less understand the general context?
Yes. Now, is this how it's going to be showing on our automated spreadsheet?
Well, everything for the automated spreadsheet would be similar to the way it is now. We would just change the values based on the actual deliverables. Yeah.
When you say actual deliverables, is it mean okay when you finish the work? That's
When you
now the
finish the
actual
work,
work.
you're actually required to finish the work to get the payment. So it actually is going to simplify payroll significantly, but that'll happen over time. So we'll be simplifying the payroll a lot because we don't need to worry about all of the details of payroll because people will get paid to complete the work. We don't have to worry about everything else. So a lot of the complications to payroll and the verifications and all the things with payroll is because people were getting paid way, 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 way too much money and they weren't doing any work. And they just wanted more and more money and all the reimbursements, all this stuff, and it was just screwing us over. And we paid like literally over 5 years, over $100,000, and we just got completely screwed. And no one gave a crap about the work, and no one actually completed the work after years and years and years and years and years. And it's just ridiculous to be spending that kind of money and not getting anything completed for all our work. It's just screwing over the organizations, it's screwing over the clients, it's screwing over the programs, and it's screwing over ourselves. So it's great that people get a bunch of money to not complete all the work, but it's not helpful over the long run. Because now you can see what happens is that basically we go bankrupt and insolvent.
Yes. So now another question. I think that means if somebody choose to work on BJC token, until you finish, you get $25, no matter how many hours you work on, right?
Correct. Yes. Well, no, but the individual is going to get a bonus. So the individual that actually does the work would get a $10 bonus just for the individual, and then the team gets $15. So in this way, the individual that actually does the work is going to be making a lot more money. So because we give bonuses with completion of work, in the past, no one ever completed the work, so we never gave individual bonuses, and no one cared because they didn't have to. But now that you have to complete the work to get any money at all, every time the work is completed, some money goes to the team for the base payroll, which pays all of our normal payroll, but then the individual that actually does the work gets a paid basically double, if not triple, anyone else who's on the payroll. So the people who are actually doing the work will get paid significantly more than the people who are just on the payroll, because you'll be getting individual bonuses every time you complete the work.
That means we don't have to, we will not have something to do like reimbursement. This 2.1
Yeah,
is
there still would be reimbursements, there still would be escrow, there still would be all of that normal stuff. It's just done under the team payroll, whereas the individual bonus payroll goes to the individual for the bonus, and you get the token bonus as well. So whoever does the work is just going to be getting a lot more money, but they actually have to complete the work, whereas before no one completed the work. You just never complete the work.
okay. When you say $15 for new client contract, which work exactly? Is it a setup only? Then that is $15 is gone, or everything is after getting everything? That's the $15.
Yeah. After everything is completed, you get the $15 plus the $60 token bonus, and so it's a very, very small amount of money. And it should be more like we talked about 60. What is this? A new contract should be about $65, $100, right? So ideally it would be $100, but we only have 25 to pay because we're out of money.
So how many hours can you approximate for that work to be delivered for $25? How many hours approximately?
Yes, we can definitely estimate the number of hours on everything, in terms of training and actual work, So training, actual work, etc., etc. So everything can be estimated. So this is a one-time thing. So this would be frequency one time. This is per contract, and the grants are per grant, right?
Yeah.
So the training for the EJC investment setup, I mean, this is not really training because this is going to be primarily VA work. So this is pretty easy.
Oh yeah.
So there's not a lot of, so this is more like, so this is like normal work is training and doing work. VA work, so VA setup and VA,
Scheduling just for me.
work, I guess. I mean, I don't know exactly. Let's just say VA time. So, I don't think there's going to be a lot of training and work, but overall VA time, maybe it's going to take us 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 5 hours, depending on how much effort we want to put into it.
Okay.
And maybe there's maybe we say like set training / setup, right? And then you have efficient work. And then maybe the same thing here. So you have training / setup. I guess there's no training involved because you just do the setup. And then you have VA. So this would be VA work. And then you have efficient work, right? So 2 to 5 hours of efficient work setup maybe is additional 1 to 3 hours. Does that make sense?
Yes.
To get that done. So for the actual client contracts, I mean, the training and setup is certainly going to be a process to get that set up, but the contracts themselves should go really quick. Let's say 1 to 2 hours for each contract. And obviously I can help and support that with the VA work. on
Yeah,
the
that is
day.
your work.
I guess the VA does. Let's say 1 to 2 hours for that, and then 1 to 2 hours on the VA work. I think overall the setup is the same. So we could say like, I would say 2 to 4 hours, but here it says 2 to 6 hours or whatever. So so this is total. So obviously this is the first time that you do, it's going to take longer. So first time is going to take longer. So here we have 3 to 8 hours, and this is 3 to 6 hours.
Okay.
But I think it could go a lot faster once we get it going. So this would be like first time, and then with perfect responsibility training and I mean, this is not applicable because it's a one-time thing, and then this one should be 1 hour. I mean, it shouldn't take longer than an hour to set up a contract, if not less.
Yeah.
Okay, so the grant, we could say for the grant, the ideal would be $250 per grant, and it's once per quarter. But let's say $300 per grant, once per quarter.
What?
So we are doing 3 months of work, $100 per month, but we're only getting paid once per quarter for the actual completion of the grant. So the total would be per year, might be $1,200 for the total for the year for the initial grants.
So for the grants, the work
will
will
be
be
based on
paid
the ideal.
after 3 months.
Say what?
For the grant, the work will be paid after 3 month completion of the work.
The work would be, everything would be paid based on the completion of the work.
Yes, now for the taxes, I mean for the grants, the work will be complete when the work after 3 months. Now you get the payment because they're divided. I think after 4 months, yes, into four, 3 times. That means after 4 months you deliver that, then you complete the work. That is the time you get that $300. Is that like that, Jay?
Yeah, and you could do something like a $300 for one grant, and then $50 each additional grant submitted. So then that would give an incentive to do more than one, and you could rack up the the value. Because the first one should be a little bit harder, and the other ones would not be. So anyways, I don't know. It's like however we want to do it. But the point is that this is based on the ideal. If we get into the actual amount of value, then it gets a little more complicated. And maybe it's $300 per grant up to a certain number of grants. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's $100 per grant. And you're supposed to do 3 per month. But for the first one, you get $300, even if you only do one. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just depends on how much time or whatever. So we just have to figure this all out. This is what needs to be figured out, is understanding how to set this all up. But we can't say this is the ideal for the grant, but we don't know how much money we can actually spend on the grant yet, because we need to actually look at the budget and all the other things that need to be covered in the budget. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the key thing that we need to do right now is, going back, we need to prioritize the actual deliverables that we want to focus on. So we want to be, okay, this is our number one top priority deliverable. So we did that priorities list for like the revenue and other stuff, right? So basically we want to take our number one top priority deliverables. Then we want to see, okay, what client, we need to choose the client and the money, where the money would come from for that particular work, right? And then we need to actually calculate out the overall potential income budget. So the first thing that we need to do is just get agreement on which one we're going to focus on. So let's actually like take a step back and think about this actual work. So this actual assignment, so if you look at an assignment, would be a deliverable assignment, right? So this is a deliverable assignment. The deliverable is the client potential income budget. Does that make sense? This is the budget of the client that is going to pay the workers.
Yeah.
And we know we need to do a lot of them, right? We need to do one for every client. So there could be as many as 10 of them, right?
Yeah.
Each,
So
each one,
the client potential budget is coming from edits under which project?
every project is separate,
Okay.
right? So you have SVG UMCUS, right? How much would this pay for it, right? So and then we have the charity orb could have its own budget. In fact, I think we actually have a budgeting for the charity orb already on its sponsorship coordination. So like budgeting would be part of that. So this is also something we could add to SVG as something that we charge the client and we actually put under SVG because this is kind of like a new thing we haven't done before. And once it's created, it's kind of like a one-time thing because once you have the potential budget, it's just updating it.
Yeah.
But overall, we could say, okay, this could be part of SVG UMCUS that we need to charge the client for and add to our client multiplier. And then that would basically be something that's done in relation and part of our client relations, right? So this could be something else we add to SVG UMCUS, which would be the actual, because I think that's the best way because we do this for every single client and it would make sense that every single client is just coordinated together. And so we would want to do that all under SVG UMCUS, where the umbrella customers, where we coordinate all of the clients together. So it would make sense to put that under UMCUS. So the question is, okay, if we're going to add that to UMCUS, so this would be client outreach and sales, client relations. So it's kind of part of client relations, but it's actually more specific to client budgets, right? So let's say client relations and budgets, and we know we want to do like 10 of them. So we need to work that out, but it looks like it's about $15 a month. So we do $15 a month, which would be $10 and $5 and then 60, right? So the total would be $75. Okay, so that looks like about correct. So we'll say this is client potential income budget. This is part of client relations. And then this is a per contract, or no, per budget. Okay, so every single one we do, it would be $5 bonus per individual. So if we can get one of these and start pumping them out and getting them done, it'll be $5. As far as time, like, I mean, the training is so easy. I just don't see really there's much training to do. So maybe a half hour of training and efficient work. It should be done in, I would say a half an hour to an hour of work. And maybe you duplicate the value for the VA work. So 1 hour to 2 hours per budget. And this is and this shouldn't take longer than like a half an hour to an hour to update, right? So updating it should be very fast every month. So overall, if you're looking at $15 times 10 is $150 to do the whole thing. And if you think about what the whole thing is, if you look at our potential income for our budgets already, it's basically just updating that for $150 to update it. So that's pretty good. $15 per mini budget, and then overall it all adds up to $150 for the entire month's updated potential client work for the future.
Yeah. So to my understanding, that means when you talk of client client potential income budget. I think it's just like example the way you are breaking the down the budget. Is it breaking down the budget? We are replacing the potential base income for before to client potential income budget, right?
Yes. So we're changing it all. It's all being evolved from categories of work to deliverable assignments. So we're trying to change it to actual deliverable assignments that have deadlines and actual completion. Like, here's the deliverable. This is what needs to be completed. This is the deadline it needs to be completed on, and this is the value of the work by completing it. So it's just going to make everything a lot clearer to the workers and a
Yeah.
lot clearer to the clients. Everything's going to be much simpler, direct, straightforward. But it's going to be harder work because you'll no longer be able to just get started with something and get paid a bunch of money to not complete it. You'll actually have to complete the work for the clients.
Okay. It's now, for example, like if I want to take this responsibility, uh, I'll make sure how will I guess the money, or I just need to, let's for example, I want to take client potential income budget. Does that mean can I able to do it alone, or I have to make it as a VA session schedule with you?
To
Because
do,
how will I determine the amount of the money?
yeah, I mean, for now, we can start as a VA session.
Okay.
But what was your question? I was a little confused.
Yeah, I was asking about potential income budget. Can I able to do it alone, or we do as a VA session? We schedule a VA
I
session.
mean, I think for
But
now, it's VA session because we need to verify it with the client to make
okay,
sure that it actually makes sense so that the work is done properly. Otherwise, I mean, eventually, if you can learn how to do it on your own, you certainly be able to do it. But I don't know. I mean, right now, I'm just doing some training, getting you to understand it so that we can start working on it together. And then we need
yeah,
to go through it. I mean, the first question is, what is the priority work? We need to prioritize the actual deliverables that need to be assigned, and then we need to work on the actual work. So, for example, if the new contract and the new potential income budgets is the most important, then it's all SVG UMCUS. Like UMCUS, SVG is our focus point, and we should get that organized as soon as possible. It's going to be very, very challenging to figure out that budget because we have such a small amount of money. So we need to actually we might need to search for money, look for that, get the payrolls done and get everything verified so that we know how much money we can offer for all of that work. Or people can start taking past tokens. So if you're willing to take past token value, then we could start paying that even quicker.
now I understand. You have to
So
choose
that's
the
the
priority
proposal. So
deliverable.
the proposal is like, to take past token payments from Jay. I'm estimating it's about 10 cents to 25 cents on the dollar, right? So it's certainly not getting a token is not as valuable as getting a dollar, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, if there's interest in doing past tokens, then everything can move forward faster. But again, that's less money. But I mean, the only other option besides that is just working for no upfront pay at all, right? Or we'd have to go and start only working for the nonprofit. But even that needs work to get it set up. We need to get the nonprofit client potential income updated and set up. Anyways, you've seen the list of all the client priorities, right?
So there was kickoff. So I'm
So
rejoining. So I
I was
left.
just saying that the only other alternative, to immediately do it is either to not get any upfront pay at all or to do the nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, you can see in the client expectations like all the details that we need to go over to get everybody paid.
So, yes. So now, when you say choose the actual deliverables, so I have to choose what I want to work on, right?
Well, we
The
need to get focused. I mean, I think that the priority is SVG UMCUS. The SVG UMCUS would be our priority to get that organized first. That's the number one priority for all of the work that we want to do. And then the second priority would be the nonprofit money. Does that make
for
sense?
yes, yes. So under SVG, we have a client budget. Client budget is for every project, right? It's every project, yeah, and create the new potential income budget.
Yes.
The first thing you should choose that. So now I don't know. Where can I choose?
I understand where you can choose. It's right here. So our options are either SVG MCUS or the charity, the grants. So we're either getting the new contract set up or we're doing the grants. But even do the grants, we still need to get the new contract set up. So I feel like SVG MCUS is really our number one. So I would say that in my personal list, the number one top priority would be internal operations for the co-op. And then the next highest level of that is that we're all part of the SVG UMCUS Association. So this would be internal operations for the association, which would be client work for us, but it's basically part of our partnership, right? Does that make sense or no?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yes.
So we should be getting the internal operations organized, having the list of all internal operations, how much money we have available for internal operations. If I would put up a proposal to freeze all internal operation payments from all current payrolls and save all funds to apply towards our towards co-op 2.0 future, towards co-op 2.0's future, right? So
Yes.
basically, if let's say we had all these internal operation payments, right, we would get those payments. Let's say it's a total of let's say it's a total of $400. If we calculate all the internal operations and we get $400 from all of the people's payrolls, then we say, okay, everyone can get this money, but we have a list of very important internal operations that needs to happen first before you take all this money, because the work actually needs to get done. Right now, people are just getting paid to not do all the work. So we need to complete the payroll, right? We need to complete the deadlines coordination and the administration of the deadlines, right? We need to do worker involvement criteria. We obviously need to do the budget coming up. We need to do the rankings, right? So there's this whole list of work that's not happening. There's voting forms, decision making, and we just aren't verifying going over this work. And so we could say, okay, most of the money would go to the payroll. Let's say we do $20 per payroll. There's 10 payrolls. So you multiply all the payrolls by that, you have $200. That's half the money right there, right? Then for the deadlines coordination, maybe we put $5 per deadline. Worker involvement criteria, maybe we put $10 towards that. The budget is important, $25 for that. Rankings, maybe say for the rankings, $25 for that. Voting form, maybe it's $5 per voting form. So the point is that it's like we actually create our own internal operations deliverables, and instead of just giving away all of our money that we bring into our organization, to our cooperative, we actually make people actually complete the work. It's like, you want to get paid, then complete the payroll, complete the budget, complete, like, whoever does the work should get the bonuses, right? So it's just like, there's no difference between internal operations and client work. The only thing that's different is that internal operations for SCG and UMCUS is technically client work for us, because we're a network and we're not an organization. So our organization is not responsible directly to do all the UMCUS work, right? So when we're doing UMCUS work, we put aside funds for that to actually have it be client work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But the internal operations for us is the same thing. There's no difference. It's just that it's the work for our organization.